Hey everyone, we are back with a new season of More Layers. Welcome. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I am Jordan Smith, and I welcome you as well.
Yeah. We have a new season starting today, new format, and today is November 30th, 2022. Are coming up on a week after Thanksgiving, and yeah, I had a pretty nice Thanksgiving down in Indiana with my family, some of my family, and a pretty good, simple, pretty good time.
Yeah, Thanksgiving was pretty decent on my end too. I had dinner with the family I'm staying with right now. I did work for some of it, but I came home. We all had a nice meal together, watched the Charlie Brown special. It was a good time. Uh, I will be able to visit my own family for Christmas though, so I'm looking forward to that.
Right, and that's in Virginia.
This will be in Florida, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after my mom and I moved this summer, she went down to Florida, and that's where a lot of her side of the family is. So I'll be spending it with them.
All right. So we've been gone for a while,
Mhm.
as you might have noticed, because we were just doing our 20th anniversary Artists Unlimited Incorporated production, which this year we did Willy Wonka, and was a fun time. And
Yeah.
we did that over a couple weekends in October and November, and I think it went well.
Oh yeah, it was a great turnout. It was fun playing the role of Wonka himself, and honestly, I think Seth. I told you this a couple times. Seth here, he played Phineas Trout, which is the news reporter that talks to each of the kids after they find their tickets. I kept telling Seth that he really could be an actual news reporter because even though I'd heard the stories so many times, every time Seth delivered the lines, it sounded really exciting.
Well, thanks.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, well, now that that's over and Thanksgiving is over, we've got Christmas coming up, and as you might expect, a lot of new entertainment either on the horizon or freshly out. And so I thought of highlighting a few ones that I found interesting, and I'm going to start with uh, something I just started watching during the Thanksgiving break, the Santa Clauses on Disney Plus,
Hmm.
which came out on the 16th and is basically an expansion of the Disney's Santa Claus franchise. If you're familiar with the film series from Disney starring Tim Allen.
It's been a while since I've seen the films, but I do remember some things. Like, I think one of the main plot elements in the first one was there was a different Santa, but Tim Allen's character like does some accidental thing that causes him to fall off the roof and now he has to replace him.
Yeah. So pretty much from that point, he's been Santa Claus for these three films, and now he's looking for somebody new to pass the job on to. And a lot of the characters are back, and there are a few in, pretty interesting new ones. And you know, I think it got to a slow start, but gained momentum as the first three episodes went.
Okay.
To I take I do I take I find it an overall decent or passable continuation or expansion of the franchise. I can say that.
So I take it then that they didn't release all the episodes at once. They've just been going like one or two per week.
It's been something like that. I think on Wikipedia it says it's like a weekly single episode schedule, like
Okay.
they've been doing with with the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, which is also on Disney Plus, and I've been watching that as well.
Okay.
But but maybe that's for another day. But but the Santa Clauses so far hmm, has been pretty good.
All right, I may have to check it out then. Although, just to kind of refresh my memory, I may watch the previous films first just to better understand what's going on in the show.
Yeah, that might help.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and then something I didn't get to see. Maybe hopefully it'll be available in some other form or on some other platform in the future. But HBO Max just dropped on the 17th a new sort of sequel follow-up movie to A Christmas Story, all right, one of my favorite holiday films. Yep. Yeah, which is kind of odd because it's a little bit before my own time, but I I have since I've seen it as a kid, I have found it nice.
Well, I mean, a bunch of Christmas specials might have happened before our time, like Charlie Brown, that came out a while
Sure.
ago. Like you said, Christmas Story, Christmas Carol is a classic story from way back when. So yeah, there's definitely a few.
Yeah. 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 Yep. So pretty much this one follows the kid Ralphie uh, as a husband and dad, kind of wanting to give his kids a very great Christmas, and look like there are a couple or so callbacks to the original movie, and you know, from what I saw in the trailer, it looked good. I just haven't been able to watch it yet, at least.
So this is a direct sequel.
Um, I guess that depends on how you define like direct. Like, I think it's just gone like to digital, but yeah, pretty much. I guess following the same character protagonist.
Right. And what I meant by direct was, does it just continue the story from the first one, or does it branch off? Is it a spin-off type of thing?
I guess it's maybe blurs the line. I guess somewhere between spin-off and continuation, because it's pretty much following the same character mainly, from what I understand.
Okay, and Ralph is still the main character, so I guess
Yeah,
you could really call it a sequel.
yeah, yeah. I guess you could. Yeah, yeah, and probably one that a lot more of our friends are probably looking into. That is coming. That is still yet to come. It's coming December 9th to Netflix. A new Matilda the musical movie.
I'm trying to think if I've ever actually seen the whole production of Matilda, whether it be the film with Mara Wilson or the stage version. Because I know our friend Dalton, he was in a production of that a while back. Um, yeah, I don't remember the whole premise. I know they were in a school with like a really nasty teacher. But I can't remember much else off the top of my head.
I'd take kind of uh, I'd take a young kid with an abusive family and an abrasive principal who discovers she has a sort of telekinetic power eventually.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like a lighter version of Carrie, but if you know that story by Stephen King, but this is probably a more optimistic equivalent of that. You could probably say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check this out then, so that by the time this releases, I'll be able to watch it.
Let's take. Well, I think if you've at least read the book or even just seen the film by Danny DeVito, which you mentioned a little bit ago,
Mhm.
I think you should be more or less ready to see this new film coming out. I mean, I haven't seen a performance of the musical ever personally. I
Okay.
have read the book. I've read the book. I've seen the earlier film, so I think I might know enough.
And is this going to be a film too, or is this going to be like Santa Claus's, where it's an episodic thing?
It's just going to be a straight through feature film based
Okay.
on the musical. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
The
you don't know if you've seen the movie?
I feel like I've seen at least parts of it, if nothing else, because I
Yeah.
remember there was a scene in the lunchroom, I think, where the principal, I think her name is, what is it, Trunchbull?
Trunchbull, yes.
Like she has this one kid who is eating a lot, like get up in front of everybody and finish eating something, I think. But
Yeah. Made him eat a whole chocolate cake in front of everybody.
right, I remember it being chocolate something. I couldn't remember what the actual
Yeah.
food was, but
Oh yeah,
yep,
yeah,
I'll have to go back and look through the whole thing again.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And they made sure to give the actor a spit bucket, as is customary or standard or whatever the word is I'm looking for. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Do we know any of the actors playing the characters in this new one?
Emma Thompson will be the Trunchbull. You might
Okay.
know her from like Nanny McPhee or Stranger Than Fiction,
Yeah.
Saving
Okay.
Mr. Banks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I can see it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that'll be something to look forward to.
yeah. Well, I'm familiar enough with the story, and having read the book and seen that earlier film, that I'm pretty intrigued to see me how this new movie plays out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And so, shifting gears a little bit, this is kind of a much more opinion question. This is going to be another part of the routine for these episodes. And in this case, it is the question of who are some celebrities you might like to see new documentaries about?
And there's really quite a few people that we could see with having documentaries made about them. I came up with four
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Just
I'm interested to hear.
huh?
No, I'm just saying I'm interested to hear.
All right. Do you want me to list all of mine first, or do you want to go back and forth? What do you want to do?
Um, why don't you just go straight down your list right away?
Okay. The first one I wrote down was the late and great Robin Williams. He was not only an actor, but he was a legend when it came to comedian or comedy, excuse me. Um, he could often just make stuff up on the fly, and most people would find it absolutely hilarious. He played iconic roles like the genie from Aladdin, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quite a few other ones. And then, of course, in 2014, he tragically ended his own life, which was really sad for not just me, but for many other people, his family, of course. But he left an incredible legacy behind. And I feel like that story could be made into a documentary in of itself.
Yeah, yeah, maybe something, maybe looking at his personal life and his career. Yeah, and yeah, he has, I think, been very revered for being a skilled improv comic with uh, and he has been known to do like comedic riffs on films like Good Morning Vietnam and Aladdin. And
Yep.
if this is something I think a lot of people would be interested to see.
I definitely would see it,
Yeah.
whether it be an episodic thing or a feature film type of deal. I would love to see it. Uh, so yeah, that's him. The second one, and I've talked about this guy a few times in previous episodes, Vic Mignogna. And the reason I bring him up is partly because I have met him before. So it would be nice to see a documentary on a person who I've actually been face to face with. But he's also or I should say was at this point, a big name in the voice acting community. He voiced big characters in a lot of anime, especially anime and some video games and what have you. So I feel like that alone could also be made into a documentary. But I feel like a big part of the documentary could also be after all these accusations against him came in, whether they were true or not, uh, and how it was a long battle trying to get his name cleared, trying to get his career back up and running. And I don't think it ultimately ever did. He still is active. Like he goes to plenty of conventions, meets a lot of dedicated fans. But I feel like a documentary about his career eventually leading into all these issues that took place that made his career take a nosedive. I feel like all of that could be made into one solid documentary.
Yeah. Yeah. Animation is pretty big in our culture, and so I I can imagine this attracting a lot of people.
It really could, especially nowadays when people seem to get really invested in various controversies. So there's that. And then another name that I thought of for very similar reasons was Johnny Depp. Even if they didn't focus on his career much, even if they just covered the weeks long court case, I guess, for the lack of a better phrasing, between him and his ex-wife, like that could be a documentary in of itself, and then his career could be like a bonus content or even a second documentary entirely. But maybe what they could do is start off talking about his career, have the trial, court case, whatever, be the centerpiece of the whole thing. And I think at this point, he's slowly but surely kind of making a resurgence of his career of sorts. So maybe that could be like the peak or where the documentary closes. Like it's like, oh, he went through all this, but now he's slowly but surely coming back, and we can't wait to see where he goes next.
It might be interesting to see maybe something that kind of flashes back and forth between maybe uh, the Amber Heard case and talk or something about his public image for being for being a troublemaker or whatever, because I think he's been pretty controversial even before this whole case started. So
Sure.
maybe dig into that along with the career, and that might be worthy in a way.
Right. And I honestly think if somebody were to make a documentary about him or the case, I don't think it should be done by anyone who has favor towards one person or the other, because then they could really skew how the story is portrayed, make one side look really good and one side look really bad. So if it was done by a person who doesn't have any bias towards either one, then it could look a lot more factual at the very least.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes stories are better, or even fictional ones, when you don't completely vilify or or well, what's another word, like um, paint a character as a complete saint either. So yeah, I would want something fair and balanced.
Yeah, I definitely would too. And I feel like a lot of people, regardless of who they might support, would want to see that too. But I could be wrong. I definitely would want to see that, just like you would. So the last person then I thought of was actually Keanu Reeves. And the biggest reason I thought of him was because I guess maybe after the first handful of Matrix films. Like he was real popular at the time, but then he didn't necessarily completely disappear. But for a while, didn't really hear his name or anything about him. But then at one point, I forget exactly when, but at one point he just exploded in popularity. And all of a sudden, everybody just loved him, saying good things about him. All these clips surfaced of how he was such a good guy. It's like this came out of nowhere, but now he's in a really good place. And now people are begging to see him in a lot more stuff. Like they're hoping to see him in maybe more Matrix movies, should they ever make any more. And hopefully I'm not spoiling anything for people who haven't seen the Sonic films. But in the third one, when Shadow is going to appear in the film, I've seen him as possibly the most popular choice by fans to hopefully voice him. It's like, would he have had the same treatment this many years ago? I don't know. But after his explosion in popularity, people just want to see him everywhere. And I would love to see a documentary that explains how he got from one point to another and how he became who he is now.
Like, well, after his role in Toy Story 4, I imagine he must be in pretty big demand now.
Toy Story 4, yeah, I forgot about that. I haven't
Yeah.
even seen that movie yet. I still got to do that.
Well, yeah. And most of these actors that you mentioned, I've seen some movies they've been in, and maybe another thing these films could do is maybe take a look at some of the movies they made and the significance of their characters and what they brought to the roles, and maybe something to put that into deep philosophical perspective.
Sure.
That might make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I put down a few myself, and first one I thought of that I decided to go with was Tom Hanks, who has had and quite an outstanding, in a way, longevity in terms of acting career. This is a guy who just keeps getting big role after big role over like several decades. This has been going on.
Sure.
On maybe something that looks in depth at his career and how he keeps landing these big roles and getting all this respect as an actor. Maybe that would be probably something worthy.
Yeah, I could definitely see that because, like you said, he does keep getting big roles. So a documentary could really go into detail as to why that may happen.
Or what is the appeal of this guy as an actor?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, from what I've heard, he can be a really nice guy in real life. Like, there was a famous, I don't know if it was a video was taken or just photos, but I think he was out jogging one day and he came across a wedding and he just willingly took photos with them and absolutely made their day. Excuse me. So there was that. And then there was another more infamous moment where all these fans, they saw him and his wife, they got up in their faces, weren't really giving him a lot of personal space. And at one point, it caused his wife to practically fall to the ground. And at this point, he got really upset. And he was like, back up, you're making my wife uncomfortable or whatever. And some people, they did get a little bothered by the fact that he got so angry. But at the same time, I can understand it because if people would not leave me or my wife alone and they caused her to fall and possibly get hurt, I would get angry too. So I feel like documentaries could explore moments like that and be like, he's a nice guy, but you also don't want to upset him.
I guess uh, he has his moments, and
Of
you
course.
know, when you have a high profile like his, I think you kind of run a kind of inevitable risk of being invaded by crowds or whatever all the time.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of have to expect that, but that doesn't mean it should happen either. Like, a couple of the actors that have played Spider-Man before, like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, they've been surrounded by people when they were trying to get places, and it made them either really upset or really uncomfortable. Like, there's a particular one where Maguire was in his car and people would pretty much not let him drive away, and that caused him to understandably get really angry. And then I think there was a clip somewhere of Andrew Garfield just casually walking down the road with Emma Stone next to him, and they were practically just completely covering their faces so people wouldn't see them. But they still had so many people getting up close. It's like I felt bad for them. It's like I understand that having a high profile can cause this to happen, but you still feel sympathetic because it's never fun for the people on the receiving end.
And something that is probably still to this day too downplayed is that some of these people aren't really into this career. They're not what they're doing is not something they're really wanting to do. Like they got forced into it by family, or they have to take drugs or something just to get through a job.
Sure.
Or yeah, and I feel like even the industry is being too quiet or too excusing about it, and I feel like something's got to change about that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
yeah, yeah. And so then I put down the late John Ritter, star of the sitcoms Three's Company and Eight Simple Rules, the latter of which I've just recently started watching on Disney Plus, and it has been really good so far, in my opinion.
What does it cover?
Uh,
What
eight,
is it
sim-
about?
Eight Simple Rules. It's a sort of simple, basic family sitcom. He plays a sports writer for a newspaper or something. He's uh, very opinionated, kind of wisecracking patriarch, or living with a wife and three kids.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. And people seem to or have seemed to hold him in high regard as this outstanding, iconic comedic actor. And people have been going on about how funny, how talented he is, and I'd kind of like to see maybe a documentary that looks into what made this guy so iconic and such like a shining star among stars in this business.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Genuinely, uh, I think he was really good at what he did, and maybe this will maybe help explain, or a documentary about him would help explain why he was held in such high regard as an actor.
That would make sense. I'd love to see that,
Yeah,
especially since I personally don't know a lot about him. So this could be very informative.
yeah, yeah. Let's take, and then probably one that's a lot more famous to a lot of people watching this, Peyton Manning, the retired NFL quarterback, like superstar footballer. A lot of people would probably say he was one of the best ever to play the game, and he's I'd say he's achieved like mega celebrity status since he's been playing professionally. And so maybe something looking at like what made him a superstar of football and what it's really like to play in the NFL, and the ups and downs of his specific career. I think that might be interesting.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
And I I'm trying to remember if some of my family have met him personally. I know some of them met Drew Brees. I don't know about him though. But I never once heard anything bad about him. I've heard some bad things about other NFL players, but not so much Peyton Manning. And he's one of those players where I can highly respect because not only was he good, but he seemed to really support other people. He was nice to them. He respected them, congratulated them if they beat him. Uh, but on top of all that, he went out on a high note. And at one point, when he won the Super Bowl, he's like, I'm going to stop right here.
Yeah, we pretty much got it won. We can go home. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
that was kind of his thought there.
Like some people, they might win one and be like, oh, this isn't enough. I want more. And he might have won other Super Bowls besides that one, but just the fact that he didn't overstay his welcome or try to achieve something bigger, I highly respect him for that. And I would love to see a whole documentary, even if it's just covering his football career or maybe some of the stuff that happened before or after. It could really be solid.
Or all of the above, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in a way, about the thing about wanting more. Yeah, I think it's like a universal human nature to want more. I think what really matters is how careful we are or not careful about letting that go to our heads or us getting carried away with it or taking that too seriously. I think our senior pastor once said a long time ago, wanting something is okay, generally stating, as long as you're okay with the possibility of never getting it.
You know what? I can completely understand that. In fact, I support that statement because, yeah, it's almost natural for us to want various things, but how we react in response to that want could really define parts of who we are. It's like maybe Peyton Manning wanted to win another one after that, or maybe he wanted to go out with a better win-loss record or try to go for an undefeated season or something, but he didn't do that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I just remembered I was going to say a little earlier, actually, my brother actually met Peyton Manning while working at a karaoke job down in Nashville.
No kidding.
Yeah, this was about I think maybe in the fall of last year when we were doing Lion King Jr. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say apparently he was in town for some sort of event and he got up on the stage, did some karaoke. Yeah, my brother doesn't work that job anymore. He's doing something else now, but it was it was something I didn't expect to hear though.
It definitely would be a sight to see, though.
Yeah.
It shows that he can have fun too.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I actually just thought of one more person, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear.
All right, so the one other person I just thought of that I could see a documentary being made about them is the actress. I keep thinking of actors for some reason. The actress Jeanette McCurdy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was just I heard about I've heard and read samples of her new book. I'm glad my mom died, and
Right.
yeah, I've heard about her story of her abusive mom, and that's a story that has definitely angered me, and something that has gotten me thinking something has got to change in that business or whatever.
Right.
There's too much of a trend of abuse or trafficking in the business going on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they could make a documentary about that covers the same content that's in her book. I'm sure they could throw in the scandal with Nickelodeon, how they apparently tried to pay her 300 grand so she wouldn't say anything, but she didn't take it. Uh, and for those who might not know who she is, one of her more recognizable roles was when she played Sam in the Nickelodeon show iCarly. Uh, but yeah, apparently Nickelodeon or some people who work there were doing bad or inappropriate things with her. I don't want to say the exact details, but apparently they tried to pay her a lot of money so that she wouldn't go public with this information. But she did not take it, and she brought it to the forefront. And now a lot of people know some of the stuff that's been going on behind the scenes. So a full-on documentary about that, and of course some of the stuff she wrote about in her book, it could really pack a powerful punch in today's society for the better, to make people more aware that abuse is not always something that you see.
She also talks in the book and has talked in interviews about how her mom kind of forced her into the acting business, because she had wanted to be one when she was younger, but her parents wouldn't let her, and so she forced Jeanette to do it pretty much, and restricted her eating, and did physical self-examinations and all this pretty inhuman stuff that is that has been hidden probably for way too long.
Yeah, and this would help, I feel like, not only her, but so many other people who have been through similar issues.
Yeah, it's just like there's probably too much silence about what is really going on behind the scenes and what is really going on in these entertainers' lives, and just you have no idea what you're supporting. You can assume the best, I guess, at least until you know something's up, and then you've got to think like, oh man, this is not right.
Yeah, and really, their on-camera personality, or even how they are in general when they're in public, it can be something entirely different than how they are when they're just at home or in areas where not many people could see them. Like, things could change entirely. Comedians in general sometimes will have that issue too. Like they might hide behind the comedy or use that as an escape to make other people laugh, whereas in their personal life they might be absolutely miserable and nobody knows because they're too busy on a stage lifting other people's spirits.
Well, let's think. Well, I wish Jeanette and anyone else in any similar situation the best, for sure.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty much all I've got to say. And well, thank you all for listening, watching, whatever. And you can stream all of our episodes on Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Anchor, and well, we'll probably be back soon with something entirely new, and but sticking to the same format that we've been starting. And well, feel free to connect with us on Facebook, whatever, and please keep the conversation going as much as you'd like, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas for future topics that you want us to discuss, or have some questions about the show or questions you want us to answer, let us know in the platforms that Seth mentioned, because we would absolutely love to hear from you, and we would love to engage with the audience more.
Well, thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Take care, everyone. See you later.